Hey guys, Todd Hart, I've joined.
And it's the March 11th planning convention. So we can go ahead and get started. Well, then, we will do a roll call, please. Craig Mary.
I'm not hearing anything, guys.
He's not showing us muted. Marlon, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Marlon, I'm putting you as present.
Yes.
Todd Hart is present also.
Thank you. Robin Ramon,
Present.
Diana Thomas, I don't see Diana.
Volume and support both.
Michael
was on there
Vickers,
earlier. Present.
Did someone say that Ms. Thomas was on earlier?
Was on earlier,
Yes, she was on earlier.
but she's not logged in right now.
I'll make an entry when she appears. Robbie Vogel,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, the next item we have our review of the minutes of the last meeting, December 3rd meeting.
Maybe January 14th.
Oh, I'm trying to go back a year ago, January 4th. Okay. Let's see, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, can we get a motion to approve?
Dr. Thomas is here. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Diane, we can hear you. I'm going to mark you as present.
Okay, I was here, but I logged out and came back in because nobody could hear me.
Okay, very good. We can hear you now.
Okay, I think we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of January 14th.
Second.
Motion and second.
Okay. Roll call on the minutes. Barry,
Aye.
Baton,
Aye.
I'm sorry, Dr. Button, Brock,
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Hamilton,
Aye.
Hart,
Aye.
Heinz,
Yes.
Ramon,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Vickers,
Aye.
Vogel.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Okay, minutes being approved. Shall we move forward towards the consent agenda?
Following is the consent agenda for the Little Rock Planning Commission, March 11, 2021. The first group of items are on consent deferral. Item number 1, file number S 1884, Watershed Point preliminary plat, northeast of Divide Parkway and Chenal Parkway. The applicant failed to send the required notifications to surrounding property owners. Staff recommends the application be deferred to the April 8th Planning Commission agenda. Item 4, Z9103B, 10115 Rodney Parham Road, conceptual PCD. The applicant failed to send the required notifications to the surrounding property owners. Staff recommends this application be deferred to the April 8th Planning Commission agenda. Item 5, S 1885, Chenal Valley Tract 9 preliminary plat, west of the Chenal Parkway and Rawling Road intersection at the west end of St. Vincent Way. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on February 22nd requesting this application be deferred to the April 8th Planning Commission agenda. Staff supports that request. Z 9561, a rezoning from R2 to AF, 18601 Cooper Orbit Road. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on March 2nd requesting this application be deferred to the April 8th Planning Commission agenda. Staff supports that request. Item 8, LU 2021-1301, land use plan amendment from industrial to commercial in the 65th Street Planning District at the northwest corner of I-30 and Scott Hamilton. Staff recommends this application be deferred to the April 8th Planning Commission agenda. 8.1, Z9563, a rezoning from PID to C4, northwest corner of Interstate 30 and Scott Hamilton Drive. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on February 22nd requesting this application be deferred to the April 8th Planning Commission agenda. Staff supports that request. And item 11, Z9564, House of 3 Family Care Facility, Special Use Permit, 8900 Shiloh Drive. The applicant failed to send the required notifications to the surrounding property owners. Therefore, staff recommends the application be deferred to the April 8th Planning Commission agenda. Next are the items on consent approval. Item A, Z9552, a rezoning from R3 to I2, 5424 West 33rd Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested I2 rezoning. Item B, Z5352A, a rezoning from C3 to C4, 6504 Mableville Cutoff. Staff recommends approval of the requested C4 rezoning. Item C, Z9551, Arium Development LLC, PRD, 2204 West 10th Street. Staff recommends approval of the PRD application as revised by the applicant, subject to the following conditions: compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs C and D and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. The minimum lot widths for the development will be 30 feet, and no driveways will be allowed along the Park Street or east frontage. Item number 2, Z9554, Immerse, Arkansas, Special Use Permit, 3201 Mary Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested SUP, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Item 7, Z9562, a rezoning from R2 to C3, 5804 and 5808 Baseline Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested C3 rezoning. Item 9, LU 2021-1101, land use plan amendment from mixed office commercial to commercial in the I-430 planning district at the north terminus of Colonel Glenn Plaza between Bowman Road and Interstate 430. Staff recommends approval. Item 9.1, Z3371, 3Fs, rezoning from C2 and PCD to C4, east of Bowman Road and west of Interstate 430, south of Brody Creek. Staff recommends approval of the requested C4 rezoning. Item 10, Z3286B, Heinz Homes LLC, conditional use permit, 13525 West Markham Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP, associated variances and right-of-way abandonment, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraph D and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Item 12, Z2333C, Ellis Duplex and Accessory Dwelling PRD, 900 West 15th Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested PRD zoning, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Item 13, Z9565, Woodall Short-Term Rental, PCD 1805 East 3rd Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested PCD zoning, subject to the following conditions. Compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraph D and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. The PCD zoning will be conditioned upon the ownership of the property by Welcome Home Enterprises, Inc. If Welcome Home Enterprises, Inc. ever sells the property, the PCD zoning will become null and void, with the property reverting back to its original R4 zoning. And single-family residential will be a permitted use under this PCD zoning. Also, with this application, the applicant mailed the required notifications to surrounding property owners 2 days late. The applicant is requesting that the commission waive their bylaws and accept the late notification, and staff does support that bylaw waiver request. And the final item on consent approval is item 14, Z9566, At Properties LLC, PRD, 300 South Valentine Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested PRD zoning, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraph D and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. That concludes the consent agenda. And just a reminder, you'll need a vote on the bylaw waiver on 13 prior to the vote on the consent agenda.
Okay, so with that, the waiver, we'll vote on that first, correct, before approving the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. So do I hear a motion on the waiver?
As a very new vice chairman, please bear with me as I understand the affirmative way we make these motions. I move that we accept that we approve the requested waiver on item 13, Z9565.
Okay, we have a motion. Any questions or comments? Okay, motion, do we hear a second?
Second.
Roll call. Barry.
Aye.
Benton.
Aye.
Brock.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
Hamilton.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Haynes.
Yes.
Ramon.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Vickers.
Aye.
Vogel.
No.
The vote is 10-1, motion passes.
Okay, and now if we might hear a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we accept the consent agenda together with all staff recommendations and conditions as set forth in the agenda.
Okay, we've got a motion. Any
Second.
second? Okay, motion and second, roll call.
Barry.
Aye.
Benton.
Aye.
Brock.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
Hamilton.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Haynes.
Yes.
Ramon.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vickers.
Aye.
Vogel.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have to vote on the consent?
No. Okay, so I think we have completed the consent agenda items. If your item that you're here for this evening was listed on that consent agenda, you're more than welcome to stay around and enjoy the fun for the rest of the evening, or you are free to leave. Okay, with that, we'll move forward with the regular agenda for the evening.
Okay, the first item on the regular agenda is item number 3, file number Z1528A. This is the Bark Avenue LLC PCD located at 7820 Cantrell Road. The applicant proposes to rezone this 0.89 acre property located at 7820 Cantrell Road from C3 General Commercial District to PCD Planned Commercial District. The rezoning is proposed to allow use of the existing developed property as an animal kennel. The property is located on the north side of W Street, just off of Cantrell Road. The property was previously used as a contractor's office and maintenance storage yard. The proposed kennel will house up to 50 dogs at any given time with both daytime and night and overnight kennel options. Bark Avenue plans to provide dogs with 24-hour supervision for both daycare and overnight boarding options. Proposed hours of operation will be 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. The applicant proposes to use the 2 existing buildings on the site. Approximately 1,500 square feet of the southernmost building fronting W Street will be utilized as office space, with the remaining 2,500 square feet being an indoor kennel area. The northernmost building, which is 1,967 square feet, will be used as an indoor play area. A small addition is proposed to the east side of this southern building, connecting it to the northern building. This space will also be used for indoor play area. There will be an outdoor play area between the 2 buildings and an existing rock wall which runs north-south near the center of the property. The east portion of the property, approximately 100 feet by 153 feet, which is approximately 1/3 of an acre, will remain vacant and serve as an open space buffer between the proposed use and the residences to the east. A new privacy fence with a minimum height of 6 feet and landscaping will be installed along the north, east, and west property boundaries. There are 8 existing parking spaces on the south side of the southern building. A portion of the parking is located within the W Street right-of-way. A franchise permit must be obtained for the continued use of this parking. The parking will be sufficient to serve the proposed use. The applicant notes that there will be a dumpster located on the site. The dumpster area must be screened as per section 36523D of the code and oriented away from the street and adjacent residential properties. The applicant notes that pet waste will be collected daily and disposed of as per city requirements. The applicant notes that the 2 existing night lights on the property as provided by Entergy will continue to be used. Additional lighting will be installed on the site, and all new lighting will be low level and directed away from adjacent properties. The applicant also notes that new signage will be placed on the street-facing facade of the southern building. Any site signage must conform with section 36555 of the code, which are signs allowed in commercial zones. The applicant has planned for noise control for the property, and that information was provided in the agenda write-up. I'll not go over that. I'll defer that information to the applicant, but the applicant has planned for noise control, and staff is supportive of that plan. The applicant also provided responses and additional information to all issues raised during staff's review of the application. To staff's knowledge, there are no outstanding issues. The applicant is requesting no variances with this proposed PCD rezoning. Staff is supportive of the requested PCD rezoning to utilize the existing developed site as an animal kennel. Staff views the request as reasonable. The property is currently zoned C3 and designated as C commercial on the city's future land use plan and located in an area of mixed commercial uses along Cantrell Road. Staff believes the applicant has addressed key issues such as noise and pet waste disposal associated with an animal kennel use. The applicant is also proposing the east 100 feet of the site remain undeveloped and serve as a buffer between the kennel use and the single-family neighborhood to the east. Staff believes the requested PCD zoning to allow an animal kennel use will have no adverse impact on the surrounding properties, and therefore staff recommends approval of the requested PCD zoning subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and F and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report.
Okay, looks like we've got several comments to be made this evening, so there'll be 10 minutes per side. those in support, those opposed. So we have several green cards of folks that are in the room, and then we have several that are on WebEx as well. So we'll shift back and forth.
It's 20 minutes per side.
Is it 20 a side?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, my mistake. 20 minutes per side. Okay, so is the applicant present? Let's see, podium just to your far right there.
We were told that we could defer and allow the opposition to speak first, and then we would be able to respond to them. So if we could request to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, and I think they're going to adjust.
Then we'll come up for our 20 minutes after that.
Okay, all right. So let's see, we'll start with the first green card that we have, and okay. Let's see, the first card we have is in support of the item, and it's Robbie Rosenbaum. Okay, should we? Okay, well, why don't we go ahead? Yeah, we'll just start with the opposition then, okay? Let's see, the first card that we have in opposition is Robin Reynolds.
I have my neighborhood team with me, so if we can present together, if that's okay, Commissioner Hamilton.
Okay, and if you could, make sure each person presents their name as well. Thank you.
We have some documents here that we would like to enter for you guys to review as we go through.
This is Commissioner Thomas. The documents that they're presenting, will we be able to put those up on the screen where we can see them?
PM the previous day. We do not have electronics, and we do not allow electronic media placed in the computer system inside the commission meeting room due to potential viruses, other matter that may affect the computer and shut down the system.
Okay, yeah, understood. Good, thank you.
Yeah, and we apologize. We were not aware of the 4 o'clock shut off yesterday. We had it on a thumb drive, so we was not able to submit that. Good evening, first of all, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. First, I would like to thank you for your time and your service. My name is Brandon Bradley. I live in the Foxcroft neighborhood. With me is Robin Reynolds and Mark Reynolds. They're not related, if you were wondering. Together, we are speaking for the 200 folks that signed a petition. And those, I believe, that sent an email, around 100 emails, probably many of them blowing up your mailbox. And they're all voicing their opinion about the concern for allowing a doggy daycare and an outdoor dog play area to be built so close to a large number of residential properties. So today we're going to focus on 3 things. We're going to focus on noise, we're going to focus on traffic issues, and we're going to focus on the negative effect upon future developments of the area. I now ask for the signed petitions to be entered into the formal record, and I want to introduce Robin Reynolds to speak on the noise concerns.
We're new at this, so our AV presentations aren't the best in the world, and I apologize for that. I represent the property owner associations of Renaissance, Foxcroft Square, and Foxcroft Woods condominium, which totals 84 housing units, in addition to the 204 neighbors who signed the petition. There's a few hundred apartments and condominiums directly across the street that we as volunteers simply haven't had time to visit. Our neighborhood welcomes business and promotes growth. We would love to see a new successful business located at 7820 Cantrell Road that would flourish and add value to our neighborhood without negatively impacting our neighborhood with noise pollution. We love pets, we love dogs. We do not love the idea of multiple dogs barking from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. We are opposed to this rezoning due to a number of factors. The noise pollution being the number one concern, intrusive sounds like chronic barking and its long-term effect have been known to induce extreme physical and psychological distress, irritability, headaches, and irregular sleep habits. Many of our neighbors, including myself, are senior citizens, and noise pollution impacts us to a greater degree. We also have concerns for our neighbors that are diagnosed with autism and dementia, which can make them hypersensitive to unexpected noise. A large number of dogs barking throughout the day will change and negatively impact our quiet and peaceful neighborhood. I became aware about this zoning proposal on January 28th. Once I contacted the city and began to further explore the proposal, I encountered other property and business owners who had not been notified of the proposed zoning changes. Most were concerned about the noise. I also found that the applicant noted that noise would be a problem and would need to be addressed. I explored 4 kennels in Little Rock and North Little Rock and reviewed their zoning applications, the zoning commission staff and board recommendations, and read the city council minutes for each of these kennels. I knew we had a lot of work to do based on past history. I personally visited each site and met with the residents and businesses in the adjacent neighborhoods. What I found concerned me. It's important to understand that dogs hear more frequencies than humans. In addition, dogs can hear noises from distances 4 times further than a human. This explains the ripple effect of dogs barking throughout the neighborhood when any barking occurs. A quick Google search returns that dog barking can be heard a mile or 2 away, depending on circumstances. My personal observation when visiting the 4 locations referenced previously that dog barking could be heard up to 1,200 feet away, and these are with old ears. Keep in mind that all of these locations currently in operation were located further away from densely populated residential areas. The next 6 pages, which again, I apologize for our AV, show how far my old ears could hear multiple dogs barking. And I don't ask you to spend a lot of time looking at these, but I'll be glad to answer any questions in the questioning time. If I'm on Rebsman Park, which Heinz Lounge, I can hear 1,133 feet. Heinz Lounge, North Little Rock, 438 feet. Wags and Whiskers, 599 feet. Heinz Lounge, Bowman Road, 1,237 feet. Now let's look at projected ranges for 7820 Cantrell Road. You go to 1,200 feet, you can see where that is. You can see that it crosses Cantrell, hits Delray, Leewood, but then the next page is really what is astounding, and that noise can go all the way to the Arkansas River. It will touch Andover, it'll touch all of Foxcroft, Kingwood, Summakamak Village, and the list goes on and on. Foxcroft has many residents who are dog owners, and the ripple effect of group barking originating from Bark LLC will become intolerable. The ripple barking effect will pit neighbor against neighbor in trying to control the barking when the culprits are located on Cantrell Road. The City of Little Rock Ordinance, and this is very, very important, clearly states that it should be unlawful for any person to keep on his or her premises or under his control any dog which by loud and frequent barking and howling shall disturb the reasonable and quiet of the person. We question the ability to soundproof 7820 Cantrell Road to the degree necessary. This last year, it's brought so many changes to our lives. Never before have we appreciated the outdoors as much as we have this past year. Many of us have celebrated birthdays, holidays, family events. We've been comforted by tranquil signs of nature as we listen to the birds sing and the crickets chirp. I can't imagine not being able to sit outside my home in peace and quiet. This form by Arkansas Realtors says it all. The seller disclosure form requires disclosure of neighborhood noise problems or other nuisances that would not be normal for this neighborhood. None of us want to have to check yes on the noise disclosure. Please help us keep our established neighborhood quiet and peaceful and vote no on this rezoning proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. So if you can find the slide in there, there is a satellite image of the intersection at Foxcroft and Cantrell. I'm going to discuss some traffic issue concerns we have. So if you see on that slide, I've circled there's a median at the intersection of Cantrell Road and Foxcroft. This median causes all kinds of problems. One of the main problems it causes is people hitting it and running into it constantly. This is because many folks turning left off Cantrell onto Foxcroft misjudge the speed of the westbound traffic coming down Cantrell Road. We all know people fly down Cantrell Road. They're fixated on that car when they're turning left. They're worried about it hitting them. And by the time their eyes come back to Foxcroft Road, they're on the median, they've hit it, or they're dodging it. So right there, the median is creating an issue. Second, the entrance into the Bellevue Vet parking lot is right on Cantrell Road. It's not listed, the physical address is not Cantrell Road, it's on that W Street. And you have to go into the current Bellevue parking lot to get there. That entrance is going to encounter the same thing because as Bellevue customers back out, guess what? They're blocking that intersection. And if you come into there and you're doing the same scenario I just went through and your eyes are not back there, you're going to see that backed up car and you're going to stop. We see it all the time. And that car is going to be almost intruding out to Cantrell Road, causing major issues. So if you go to the next slide, I want to talk about exiting the parking lot. Well, guess who's still sitting there? Our favorite little median. And you can't go left. So what's everyone have to do? They have to turn right, head down to Foxcroft Road, head into the neighborhood looking for a place to turn around. Well, because of the slope of Foxcroft Road, you have limited visibility. You can't see. So most folks are not willing to just do a U-turn in the middle of the road. So they're going to look for a place to turn around. Well, there is a bank right there to the left that you can see. Well, what happens there is they try to turn in left into that bank. Well, cars sitting at the parking lot looking to exit and get on Cantrell Road are now blocking them from turning left. But that driver is oblivious to the things going on behind him, and that means all the cars are starting to back up back onto Cantrell Road, especially when there is a green arrow for you to exit onto Foxcroft Road. And if that option doesn't work for the driver, then there's a business office down there with the parking lot in it that a lot of folks like to turn into. Well, guess what? That business parking lot is also a bus stop for Pulaski Heights Middle School at 8 a.m. in the morning. So let's talk about peak traffic hours, right? So businesses like this proposed dog park are becoming more popular because they are a doggy daycare business. What that means is the owners come in there, they drop their dogs off to play with other dogs, to be babysitted, etc. Well, just like a daycare, most of their customers are going to come drop their dog off on their way into work, and they're going to pick up their dog on the way home from work. Well, if you go back to city records, and I'm going to read this, according to city traffic counts, 319 vehicle movements occur on an average at this intersection in the morning. Okay, if we had 50 customers come in and drop their dogs, that's one in, one out. That's an additional 100 traffic movements per morning. That's a 25% increase. That's a lot of cars entering this bark park, exiting this bark park, looking for a place to turn around. Not to mention you got all the residents in Foxcroft leaving to go to work, so they're backed up on the traffic light, and there's a bunch of kids running around as well. It's a recipe for a disaster and potentially a major injury or even a child being hurt. I'm going to turn it over now to Mark, and he's going to discuss the negative impact upon the future development of the area.
And just to let you know, there's about 10 minutes remaining in the.
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may have a second. Chair, if I may have a second. I just wanted to let the commissioners know that are attending the WebEx online that I was able to scan in the exhibit documents and shared it with them and emailed it, should have emailed it to them. So Commissioner Brock, Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Heinz, you should be able to, if you check your email, you should be able to open up and see what they are talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Mark Reynolds. Thank you all for letting us come and visit with y'all today. Unlike Brandon or Robin, I do not live in Foxcroft neighborhood, but I do own property. I actually own property that is immediately to the north of the applicant's property. And I'm here also representing Ms. Janet Jones, who also owns the property immediately north, next door to mine in the north of the applicant's property. I'm going to talk a little bit about the adverse effects. I think one of the things that we were looking at in the articles and the codes for a planned redevelopment were, there's like 5 things that I think the commission looks at when they're considering rezoning. You know, one of those things are to for that new development to be compatible to the existing neighborhood. I understand that, as Brandon described, this property is listed as having a Cantrell address, but it's a considerable amount off of Cantrell Road. The area where they will be housing the dogs is even further off of Cantrell Road and almost directly back into the neighborhood. The other thing that the commission should look at is, and I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, obviously, but is, you know, does this new development, is it harmonious with the character of the neighborhood? That's probably the most sticking point that I have. I don't see where a dog kennel that has either 50, 25, 15, even 10 dogs outside at any one time, and they begin to bark, how that can be harmonious to such a dense residential neighborhood. I know that, I think in mentioning earlier when you were talking about the application, the properties, my property and Ms. Jones's property that are directly north are zoned office, but both of those properties are residential properties. It's a 6-unit office building, a 6-unit apartment building that Ms. Jones owns, and a 5-unit residential property that I own. Of those 11 tenants in Ms. Jones' building, 2 of those tenants have lived there over 25 years. 2 of them have lived there over 10 years. They're all retired. 4 of the 6 tenants in her building are retired. They're at home all day long. That property is less than 500 feet, less than 300 feet from the outside run areas that they're proposing. My property is less than that from that. I'm not sure how it works, but as far as notification goes, just to put it in the record, I was never notified. I never received any notification of the planned redevelopment. I found out about it, you know, through the process and through the neighborhood, but I personally have not been notified. I've not received anything registered mail. I purchased that property and closed on it around the 20th or 21st of December. I don't know when the application was made, but I did not receive any notification, nor did Ms. Jones receive any notification. She's owned that property for over 15 years. One of the things I want to speak about is, as Brandon said, is the redevelopment. I bought that property, an old single-family house that's been redone into some apartments, to eventually redevelop that to conform with what's there in the neighborhood now. Condominiums, apartments. I plan to build some residential apartments, upscale residential apartments on that lot. At this point in time, I don't see how I can build something where the back of my building is going to be less than 100 feet from the outdoor play area where 20, 30, 50 dogs may be outside barking. So that addresses the part of future redevelopment in the neighborhood. As far as property values, if I can I refer y'all to 2 letters that are in your packet that's there. Ms. Jones wrote a letter to the commission. I think she emailed it and sent a hard copy. Ms. Jones has been in the residential real estate business for 41 years. I think many of you may know her as one of the most well-respected authorities on residential real estate in Central Arkansas or in Arkansas, period. There's another letter in there from Mr. Jim Irwin, who is a commercial real estate broker, has been in the business since 1978. Mr. Irwin lives in the neighborhood. Both of these people opposed vehemently this project. I think with their experience and their knowledge about how it will adversely affect the property values immediately adjacent to the properties and on into the Foxcroft neighborhood, it's not going to affect just the ones that are 100, 500, 1,000 feet away. It's going to affect the ones at the back of the neighborhood. the ripple effect of dropping property values is going to happen. It takes time, but it's going to happen. I think that's probably pretty much all I have to say right now. I just hope that you give, good consideration to the points in the articles about the code. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, there's 4 minutes remaining.
Yep.
So we've got about 10 people that have signed up online. So we'd like to give those folks an opportunity to speak if at all possible.
And we yield their time. I'd like to make this last point, please. Oh, well, for the folks, can we ask the folks online to yield their time?
Well, I've got about 10 of them. I'm going to start naming them. So if we could ask that possibly if you could yield your time at this moment for the folks that have signed on. And then,
can I make just 3 points and then that'll be it?
okay, if you could briefly, please.
Thank you very much. So first, noise. They talk about soundproof in this building. We haven't seen what exactly they're talking about doing. So we would like to see some details. When we look at the architectural drawings, we see metal buildings, we see rock walls, we see asphalt. I don't see a lot of soundproofing there. Second, traffic. Has any applicant submitted a traffic study or has the applicant submitted a traffic study to evaluate the impact here of all the things I spoke about earlier? And then, of course, the municipal codes, right? If you will, on that slide, third to the last, it shows what it costs or what it means to have a PCD. And it says, are they compatible with the surrounding area? Are they harmonious with the character of the neighborhood? Do you have a negative effect on the future development of the area? It is the intent of this article to assure the applicants, the PUD or PRD are not granted for the sole benefit of the applicant, but are used to establish the development of what I just listed. That's coming right off the website for what a PCD application should be required to have. So thank you. You can take that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to our online guest. First name I have is Sunny Hawk. Sunny Hawk.
Not present.
Okay. Next name I have is Jonathan Ross. Jonathan Ross.
Not present.
Okay. Next name is Gail Nicholson. Gail Nicholson.
Not present.
Okay. Madeline Ross.
Not present.
Okay. Sheila Peters. Sheila Peters.
She was present earlier, but she's not there right now.
Okay. I'm going to go to Slater Corbin.
Not present.
Sandy Schmidt.
Not present.
Allison G.
Not present.
Elizabeth Hiles. Elizabeth Hiles.
Hi, yes, this is Elizabeth Hiles.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate the speakers that have presented, and I do want to reiterate the main concern of this intersection is traffic and public safety. And I would just like for the commission to, if you are, I guess, being persuaded to approve this, I just ask that as a condition of approval that you do require a traffic impact analysis be performed to ensure that the neighborhood is safe and that this is a safe intersection for our children and all of those that live here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hiles. We are at about a minute right now. I am going to extend this conversation by another 6 minutes because there's quite a bit of interest, and we'll make sure everyone has an opportunity to weigh in. So next name we have is Bob Boolers. Bob Boolers.
He's in the room.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I approve.
Okay, I'm not sure if did you say you approve?
Yeah, I approve of the proposed development.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we actually had you listed as against. So you are in support of?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you. We appreciate you. Next name I have listed as in opposition is Tommy Drew.
Not present.
Okay. All right, that gets us to all of the opposition online. As I did extend it by 6 minutes. I mean, if you've got some more information that's selling, you certainly bring it. If not, I mean, we'll move forward.
Yeah, just a few more things
Okay.
here. Basically, I did have a conclusion sentence I'd like to use. So basically, my ask is that Mr. Chairman and the commission is a business that is an outdoor dog
Step
park.
over to your microphone. I can hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me? Is really an outdoor dog park inside of business. Now, they can say it's an outdoor play area, but you're bringing dogs together in a social atmosphere to play with one another, and you're going to have a lot of dogs out there at one time. Is that with the fact that you're adding 100 or a 25% additional traffic movements on a daily basis to an already funky intersection? Is that a good fit for a residential neighborhood who is accustomed to a certain level of peace and quiet, which would be completely disrupted by allowing an outdoor dog park so close to so many residents? We do not believe it is a good fit, and we hope that you see it the same way. Thank you again for your time.
Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, any other comments in opposition? We do have a few minutes. If not, we'll move forward to those in support of. Okay, shall we have the applicant come forward at this point?
Hello, my name is Cliff McKinney. I'm an attorney at Quattlebaum Grooms, and I am the attorney representing the applicant who I have here with me. I'll let her introduce herself, and then we'll take you through addressing some of the concerns that were raised, as well as showing you what our vision is for this particular site.
Afternoon. Thank you guys for allowing us to attend today and give, I hope, better explanation as to what our intentions are with the property. Cliff will go through some of the items that we have discussed with neighbors that have showed concern up until this point. So I'm just going to let Cliff speak, and then I can answer any questions or actually speak to any objections that they have had so far today.
And we do have a PowerPoint presentation that we pulled together that should have been submitted, so we can turn that on. As that's getting loaded, though, I do want to address the 3 points that were made by the opposition, and I think your presentation that we have will more fully address those, and will show you that we're aware of those concerns, and we believe we've done quite a bit to address them. But just to begin first with noise, you'll see as we go through the presentation, we're doing quite a bit to mitigate the noise. We're putting in sound barriers, we're doing other things to keep the noise down, but it's also worth remembering what the site is and where it is. This is on Cantrell Road. This is literally next door to another kennel that has dogs. This is across the street, just a stone's throw across the street from a tire and lube store. And this property is already zoned C3, which, addressing the traffic, this is a much less intense use than what could go there today by right, and less intense use than what was there before, which was a construction facility that had heavy machinery and equipment, and we'll show you some pictures of what was there before. And then lastly, to the adverse effect, and again, we'll walk you through this, but I believe this effect we have is going to be positive for the neighborhood, and certainly much better than what is there right now, which is a derelict construction facility that was not used before. But also, I do think it's worth pointing out on that last point, the gentleman who spoke, Mr. Mark Reynolds, about the adverse impact. This property was purchased at an auction, and he was the person who was bidding against the applicant. So he had just so you're aware of that fact, that he was the person who was trying to buy the property instead of us. Okay, we have the PowerPoint ready to go. We'll go ahead and take you through. How do I change screens? Do I just tap this or? Okay, next. Okay, next screen then, please. So you're already familiar with this location, so I will take you through quickly on that. Next. But I do want to go through what's allowed here today as a permitted use, because this is C3. It is shown as commercial on the city land use plan. These are the things that we could just go down and pull a building permit for as long as we meet the basic design requirements for the site. Next slide, please. This is already approved for a bar, a lounge, or a tavern. Next slide. A butcher shop. Next. A college dormitory, college fraternity, or sorority. Next. A daycare center. Talk about the impact on children and being exposed to the intersection. Next. A gas station. This is already by right approved for a gas station. Next, please. Fire station. Next. A food truck park. Go on this location, and frankly, it's a right size for that. Next. A hospital. Next. A hotel could go here. Next. Parking garage. Next. Medical marijuana cultivation and dispensaries are already approved uses for this site. Next. Movie theater. Next. Service station. As a matter of fact, directly across from this location and along this street is a existing facility less than 100 feet away that does tire and lube and leaves its doors open all day. Next. The former use. So you know what's there today and how this property has historically been used. Next. It was previously used as Cullender Construction Company. You can see from the pictures the heavy equipment that was stored there. Next. There's some more pictures of how this site has been historically used before it was closed. Next. And another. Next. Let's talk a little bit about current noise levels, and then we'll talk about how we think we're going to be not causing an impact to the neighborhood. Next. Okay. Since most of the letters that you've received, which do largely look like form letters, because you'll see that they all say quiet and peaceful neighborhood, but you have received those. So we want to be sure we've addressed this. Next. The Moore Robinson Tire and Service Center is 100 feet away. Cantrell Road, which carries 54,000 vehicles and is the busiest non-interstate road in Arkansas, is right here at this location. And the Bellevue Animal Clinic with its outdoor play area is next door. Next. You could play this video. There's sound. The point of this video is the sound. We could put pause on our time, just it's technical difficulty worked out.
Yeah. And we are at 13.5 minutes, but we will hold for technical. Yeah, trying to see if we can get this out.
13, yeah.
Tell you what, well, while they're working on the sound, could we circle back to that?
Why don't we, yes,
Yeah.
proceed on this, and what we'll,
Okay.
and we have actually a couple more videos where we had a narration, but
Sure.
what we'll do is we'll let the applicant narrate these next couple of videos. So,
Okay.
and I think you're all familiar with Cantrell Road as well. You've all been on this location many, many times. You're familiar with the noise levels here. So if you could just bear in mind what it sounds like on Cantrell Road. So if we could go back to the slide deck, we'll just go ahead and move to the next. Okay. We could go to the next slide then. And, all right, let's go ahead and go to the next. We've talked about that already. Okay, so let's talk about what the plan is here. Next. So we're going to show a video, and I'll let her narrate what she does say on the video where we would play it.
So in this video, this is me standing at the corner of the yard looking at the facility. This area here will be where the dog outside play area will be. This building here to the right will be a newly built, I hear it in the background.
You go ahead and mute it. We'll just let her narrate.
Well, if you want to.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure, so go ahead.
Okay. So this is looking out into the play yard. As you can see
Yeah, if you could stay with the mic, that way our audience can hear.
when I originally purchased the property, one of the reasons why I was so excited about the property is that it had this much area for dogs to run outside and play, and I would have a very large play area. After talking with some of the neighbors around and deciding that, you know, I wanted to be a good neighbor. I can't move into this neighborhood and open a business without being someone that the neighbors are supportive of. I wanted to try and do everything that I could to show that, you know, we are going to do what we can to mitigate noise that is bleeding over into the areas that they're concerned about. So what we've decided to do here.
And if you could stay with your mic, that way our.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
We're going to not use this entire section of the lot that backs up to these residential houses here. We're going to put an 8-foot an 8-foot privacy fence around the entire parameter of the area. In addition to that, there is a retaining wall that's already built here that's existing. I'm going to put another 8-foot fence here and then use sound mitigation tools such as sound curtains. There are different sort of panels made of PVC and different structures that we can use to help mitigate sound from going beyond that. So there will be a privacy fence here and along the area of the perimeter of the area. This area here, we're in one of the videos where you can see there is an old tin structure. We are actually going to take that down and build a new structure. That's going to be an area for the dogs to play inside. It will be insulated. The noise level there is not going to be an issue. I know that they are concerned about dogs, all of the dogs being outside. One of the things that we will be doing, the dogs will be accompanied with staff throughout the day. They will never be outside by themselves. If we have one that is barking incessantly, they will come inside to the play area. We also will be taking them out in different groups, so they all won't be outside at the same time. So I don't know what all we were going to address. Okay, so this entire front building here, this is the rendering of what the building will look like once the building is complete. I believe that this shows that we're going to be adding property value to the neighborhood, considering what you guys can see is already there. Next door is an animal clinic. It sits right here. It's a veterinarian clinic. They do boarding, they do grooming. They also have an outside area that backs up directly to my area. So they already have the existing business that I am trying to do next door. When I purchased the property, I was told that it was zoned for this particular use. I was told that the veterinarian next door had plans drawn up to actually do this. He just decided that he was closer to retiring and did not want to go ahead and do that. So when I purchased the property, I was told that it was zoned correctly, and that is my fault for not looking into it further. I went on what I was told. Again, there's a Goodyear store that I share a parking lot with here. The videos that I took actually 2 days ago are the ones that are listed in the PowerPoint presentation. The noise level that is there now is excessive. Most of it is coming from Cantrell Road, the cars driving by. But a lot of it is the Goodyear tire shop. You can hear banging, air compressors, all kinds of crazy noise, which are in the videos for you guys to see. The main point of the video was, again, to show noise, but also to show that the entire area will not be used.
And we're at approximately about 8 minutes. I think we do have 5 cards for it as well, so.
I think they're all part of our team.
Okay.
This is the noise that's out there currently all day long. You guys hear that? So I could keep it playing, but I want to be able to talk a little bit more. After realizing that there was some opposition to my business, we met with Robin Reynolds, who you spoke with earlier today, or who you heard from earlier today, and we tried to address any concerns that the neighbors had. We had her come over to the property. We then asked her to put the word out for any concerned neighbors throughout the neighborhood that she had gotten in touch with. I know that she took several letters around the Foxcroft area. I don't know if she invited all of those neighbors to the open house, but we only had 3 people come to the open house last Thursday. One of my neighbors that backs up directly to my fence line, his house is here. He was on the
phone.
I'm sorry, it's right here. He is on the phone. He's the one that said that he was, that it approved. I think that he was registered as opposing. I went to his house. I went into his backyard. I spent an hour with him yesterday at his home. I addressed all of the concerns that he had. After leaving him and having the opportunity to go through and tell him what I wanted to do with my business and the things that I was going to do to try and mitigate sound and be a good neighbor, I think that after leaving, he was not in opposition anymore, as he was able to tell you. So I think that it would be my good reasoning for me that if someone that has 2 lots that backs up directly to my area approves and is supportive of this business, that people that live farther back into the neighborhood shouldn't have that much of a concern.
The outdoor soundproofing methods that we have.
So there's different noise control factors that we can use. Sound absorption is dealing with the absorption of sound to reduce the reverberation time, which takes that noise to decay it down to nothing. And there's also sound barriers. I also, in speaking to my neighbors that I met with, I do not intend or have said that I am going to completely soundproof the area. That's not possible. I know that dogs bark. However, the dogs will not be unattended. There will be somebody on site 24/7. There will be somebody there with them at night and during the day. Like I said earlier, if there is any noise level out in the yard during their playtime and they are being unruly, first sign of that, they'll go back inside. The things that we have on the screen now, quilted sound curtains, next. And these noise barriers are also options that we can line the fence with. There is a vinyl type of material here that we can put along the 8-foot privacy fence that we're going to build around the perimeter. Next. There's also echo barrier material. These are types of materials that you'll see along interstates or construction sites to help mitigate noise. And those are some things that we can use here in my facility as well. Next. The indoor soundproofing methods, my architect, this is David Perry, and he will talk about any of the inside sound.
I can do this very fast. David Perry, Roark, Perkins Perry, Yellington Architects. since the building is dated like it is, it doesn't meet any energy codes. So it already forces us to make the envelope up to the standards of the state energy code. So that gets us 60%, about 60% already sound mitigation. So with what we have to do, we have to put new walls inside because it's concrete block walls. So with that, we can utilize sound attenuation board and all the things we need to do to get to the STC rating, sound transmission class rating that we need to get to mitigate any sound outside of the building. So that's every part of the envelope, the ceiling, the walls, doors and windows all be replaced. So we should be in really good shape. And I think they admitted that they weren't worried about the building. We can get the building what it needs to do to be attenuated.
I think that's probably everyone we have. So just to sum up, please take into consideration what this site is already zoned for, what it's already been approved for, what the land use plan assumes this is going to be used for. I understand the neighbors' concerns, but I think we've run a really good job trying to address them. I also believe that this has significantly less impact on all of the neighbors' concerns than the host of uses that could be done at C3. And I don't think you're going to find many users of this site who would be willing to set aside an area as large as this one as a buffer between the neighborhoods, because that's not required under the code right now. That's something she's offering because this is her dream of something she wants to do, a business that she's wanted to build for a very long time. You've seen the applicant. She cares and she wants to address the concerns, but also wants to run a really great business that frankly fits the character of this location a lot better than a lot of other things that could go here automatically. So with that, would appreciate a good vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Time left?
Good.
One thing I do want to address, the neighbors that I have spoken to and that did attend my open house meeting, they're concerned. They were told that the dogs would be basically running outside amok all night long. That is not true. Our business hours are going to be from 7 to 7. I fully intend on the dogs that are boarding overnight to be taken inside starting around 6, get them fed. No dogs will be outside after 8 o'clock. But hopefully after we close at 7 o'clock, I can get all the dogs that are there fed, potty breaks, everybody will be back inside. And there will not be any noise that needs to be addressed during the evening hours. So I know that the overnight noise was a major concern as well. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and
Okay, thank you. We actually, I think I've got 2 cards that may not have been on your team. Is there a Brant Musgrove in the room by chance? Okay, all right, awesome. And then I also have I think it's a Brad Peterson.
one of our architects, that he's outside, he couldn't get in.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Are there any dogs in attendance that would like to speak?
I wish.
Okay. All
I
right.
wish.
All right, hearing none. Right, absolutely. Okay, commissioners, any thoughts, comments?
I have a question, Chairman.
Absolutely, Commissioner
Yeah,
Vickers.
I was speaking, I just want to state this for the record. You talked about your green space that backs up to the neighbors,
Yes, sir.
and you said that you will not use that space for outside dog play. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So the man that you just spoke to that was on the online conference, his house is right here, and if you were able to see the video, and I apologize that you weren't able to see it, space is extremely large over here. I am not going to use this at all for dogs. Dogs will not be allowed to come through this side of the fence.
You're putting a fence there,
Yeah, I'm
correct?
putting a privacy fence here as well as around the entire parameter of the property.
Now, is that indefinitely or is that just initially?
No, it will be indefinitely. Did you say definitely or indefinitely?
Indefinitely, like,
Yes.
not
Yeah, it's
just
not-
saying for
it
the
will
first
not.
year.
No, sir. Originally, we thought that as we grew as a business that we would be able to do that. But after looking out into our business plan, honestly, the amount of kennels that we'll be able to build in here, we won't need this area here. So we will just be utilizing this the entire time that we have the.
Approximately how many feet
And thank you. Approximately how many feet from the outdoor dog area to the nearest resident that bags up to that? How many feet is that approximately?
That's not. But one thing I would like to say is that they said, they did mention that there's just concrete and really nothing back there. That we will have astroturf. We will build shrubs along the area back here as buffering noise too. This building too, and this building, whenever they're remodeled and whenever this one is newly constructed, on the outside of the building, closest to the play area, we will have the sound blankets on those walls and different types of sound material that will help bounce the noise back so it's not going back towards Mr. Reynolds' area here. And I would like to say that Mr. Reynolds did know that I was going to use this as a dog daycare facility when he was with me bidding at the auction. I told him at the end of the auction what I was going to do with it. And I've also spoken to him personally on the phone about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vickers.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for city staff. Seems like in the last 10 years, dog kennels, daycare are increasing use and phenomenon, except for this last year where dogs are in our homes, locked down, barking during our Zoom meetings. But how does the current zoning ordinance handle these kinds of uses? Does it address it specifically directly or not at all?
There is a use listing in the ordinance. I don't have that right in front of me, but there is a dog kennel use. I believe it's a permitted C4 use.
Okay.
There's a dog.
Where there is a use listing.
There's a dog clinic enclosed for C3 right. So if this was enclosed, it would have by right the opportunity to develop.
If this were an animal clinic, it would be permitted in C3.
So since this is not a clinic, it's a.
This is yes, a dog kennel with outdoor
Okay.
runs, as the ordinance says.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, so that's considered a more intensive use than C3?
Correct. That would be a
Which is what
permitted
it's known C3 right
C4
now.
use.
So it views a dog kennel as a more intensive use than what is intended for a C3 zone.
Correct. That's the reason for this application. Yeah.
I do have a question, the applicant. What's the maximum capacity of number of dogs you would handle there?
It's a good question. So in our business plan, just to submit financials and things like that for me to get the loan, in the business plan that I wrote, we wrote it for 50, because we had no idea. When I went back through this week and I was revisiting the business plan, there's not any number of dogs over 35 for the first year. So right now I'm trying to get 5 dogs. I know that our maximum capacity for the amount of kennels that we've drawn out is around 50 right now, but I don't anticipate having that many kennels for, a year or two. When there are 50 dogs there, if we ever get to that number, they will be separated out, for example, and not every day is there going to be 50 dogs. But when there is a day where there is 50 dogs, we will be taking them in groups outside. So again, not all 50 dogs will be outside. And if I can just address one more thing, I know that Mrs. Reynolds said that she has gone down to the Heinz Lounge and other dog daycare facilities in the area. It's unfortunate that those are the ones that we have here in Little Rock. I do know that the buildings that are in existence there have not done anything to soundproof their outside area, or to my knowledge, their inside area. They're just concrete blocks, and it is very loud. But that is something that I've learned from, and I will do whatever I can to not have that be the issue.
Hey,
I have a question, Commissioner.
Okay.
Go ahead, Derek.
Okay. Two things. Can you speak to, for the applicant, can you speak to two of the gentlemen that just spoke and opposed said that he never received notification, as well as Miss Janet. Can you address that?
Robbie can. I know Mr. Reynolds said that he did not know. I spoke to him on the phone. He knows what I'm doing. The guy the gentleman that was the real estate auctioneer that day, I discussed it with everyone that was there. And I know that day, John Doss did tell Mr. Reynolds what I was doing. Now, as far as getting the notification out, Robbie will be able to better tell you.
So by statute, as in the ordinance, as you know, all property owners within 200 feet have to be notified. And the ordinance requires a certified appraiser's list of the owners. And so we got a certified list through our firm. It was dated, I think, February 4th or 5th. I would have to check. But we sent certified notices to all property owners that were on that list. We also, for the addresses, a lot of these owners, like, they might rent their house, et cetera. So the owner's address is not the physical property address.
Okay.
So for those, we sent 2 notices. We sent one to the owner of record, and we also sent one to the physical property. So we were sure to cover all of our bases there.
Thank you. Second question, how many dogs will be housed overnight? I know you hold 50.
Yes, sir.
How many will be,
So right now in my original plan, I have 36 kennels that are drawn up for the space that we have.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Todd. Could I ask staff a quick question? So what happens if and I know we don't necessarily handle noise issues and noise complaints through the city, but my question is, so let's assume worst case scenario, there's a resident immediately behind the kennels and they have trouble with the barking dog. So what is the process there? And how is that mitigated or fixed? If one of the residents who lives very close to the outdoor area can't be satisfied?
Yesterday, whenever I met with Mr. Bowlers behind me, I left him my cell phone number and I told him that he could call me day or night, 24/7, in addition to the staff that will be there. We will do everything that we can to, if there is a certain situation, we will handle it. If it's, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a call from one of the neighbors saying that there's something going on and something crazy happening, we will address it immediately.
Staff, I was asking staff specifically sort of what the process is when a resident anywhere in any neighborhood has a barking dog or what they consider to be a nuisance. What's that process?
Yes, sir. This is Sean Overton, the deputy city attorney, and the process would be the neighbors would complain, would contact the police department or animal services. And if enough complaints were lodged, we could put the property on the CAP list, which is the criminal abatement program, and declare the property as a nuisance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one more question, Commissioner. To the applicant, you stated, do you live in the community?
I go through Foxcroft to get to my house. So I live on Vantage Point, but I turn off of Cantrell into Foxcroft to go back to my house. So I don't technically live in Foxcroft. I live right behind Foxcroft.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moore, I think you may have had a question.
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe Mr. Vickers' previous question was completely answered about the open space area. It's about 100 feet, possibly a little over 100 feet running east-west, and a little over 150 feet running north-south. So that's the size of the open space area. Also, with respect to Mr. Brooks' question about notification, the applicant goes to a title company to obtain a list of property owners within 200 feet. They use the most current real estate records. If there has been a transaction with a property, the most current property owner may not be in the records yet. So that may be one of the reasons that one of them did not get notified.
Okay, but it sounds like we're satisfied that the process was followed.
Yeah, Chair, if I may, we did look up the one individual that did say they wasn't properly notified the apartments. And if I may, it was M&S Apartments LLC. It did get sent out. We do have the certified mail receipt of shipment, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments, questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chair, the only comment, observation I had, this is, the applicant, I appreciate whatever the vote outcome is. I appreciate you taking time for the application for a very challenging property, which is deserving of redevelopment. I don't know if it'll be this one or nothing. This one, for the neighborhood, consider that C3 by right does have some uses. You could get a tavern there. You'd have not necessarily a whole lot of say over that. In my mind, C3 traffic and the difference between this traffic would be just incremental. I think noise is a big concern, being so close, tucked into a neighborhood, but also consider what future, with your neighborhood, this property is vacant, and it's not going to be very favorable to the neighborhood to have that property vacant. So, thanks.
Okay, hearing no additional questions or comments, I think we are ready for a motion for this item.
Mr. Chairperson, I move that we accept item Z1528A together with all staff comments and conditions as outlined in the presentation.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 3Z1528-A. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Roll vote.
Roll call, please. Barry?
No.
Button? Yes. Brock?
No.
Brooks?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Hart?
No.
Haynes?
Yes.
Ramon?
No.
Thomas?
No.
Vickers?
Yes.
Vogel?
Hate to have to do this to the applicant, but I do not believe in planned commercial development zonings just for one use. I vote no.
That is 5 ayes, 6 nays. The motion fails.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, the next item we have is item 15, but I do believe that's been put on.
Mr. Chair, the next item is 15, Z9567.
Okay.
This is the CALS LRWRA Solar Development PID located at 6700 Fushdam Pike. The first order of business before you can get into the issue of the PID zoning is a bylaw waiver, which has been requested by the applicant with respect to the your requirement for posting of a public hearing sign on the property. So first off, let me read from your bylaws as to what the requirement is. And this is Article 4, paragraph A4B7 of your bylaws. And it states that all properties involving rezoning, CUP, TUP, zoning site plan, subdivision site plan, SUP, land alteration, or PZD applications shall be posted with a sign. This particular application or site being larger than 10 acres is required a 4-foot by 4-foot sign to be posted. These signs shall be provided by staff to the applicants at a cost specified by Fee Ordinance 18622. These signs shall be posted on the site at least 30 days prior to the meeting date. The signs are to remain posted on the property through the date of the Planning Commission hearing. So that is your bylaw requirement. In this particular case, the applicant failed to pick up the sign and post it on the property within 30 days before today's meeting. They actually picked up the sign Monday of this week and posted it, which is 3 days before the meeting as opposed to 30. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a bylaw waiver on this sign posting issue. And I believe the applicant is here or possibly on WebEx to discuss that with you. Staff does not support the bylaw waiver.
Okay. Is the applicant for this particular bylaw waiver available to speak? Okay, thank you. If you want to come to the podium, state your name.
I'm Sam Seelig, Integrity Partners. And yes, we're requesting a waiver. We got everything in, we sent everything over, and we sent everything over by email due to COVID. And then I forgot to come and pick up the sign. Very sorry about this. And so that's why we're requesting the waiver.
Chairman Hamilton, may I?
Yes, absolutely.
As we always discuss in due process and noticing, and when you don't post the sign, the public doesn't have an opportunity to appear at this hearing, or nor do they know the project. And so you certainly have discretion to vote, but I would just say with much caution, due process, and we preach that here. And I just wanted to state that for the record, sir.
I guess I'm confused by that. If it's a bylaw, to what extent is due process?
Well, the posting of the property, they were required under your bylaws to post.
But that's our bylaws. That's not the city ordinance, right?
Well, noticing is not only by the bylaws. Noticing is a federal issue. It's a state issue.
But that's my point. If it's just a bylaw, you would think that if it were this very important consideration, which I don't disagree, it certainly is. Why is our bylaw the only thing that dictates that notice has to be provided?
I wouldn't say that our bylaw would be the only thing. I think we include it in our bylaws because it's so important.
So then how can we waive it if it's in more than just our bylaws?
That's a great question, and I think that that's something that we need to look at, among other things. But I think that, particularly the PCD thing that we've discussed. But yes, that's something we definitely need to address.
Any other comments or questions, commissioners? So what we'd be considering here is to waive the bylaws that would require that 30 days sign posting notice. And I think what Mr. Overton is stating is that to consider what precedent that would set going forward. So
Also the mail notification, right?
In this case, the mail notification was done correctly.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a sign only, sign notification.
I move that we waive the bylaws to permit, 3 days notice as proper notice under the bylaws.
Okay, so I'm going to try to reframe that motion, and then I'll ask for a second. So what motion has been set on the floor is that we would waive the 30-day notice and allow for this project to move forward with a abbreviated notice of 3 days.
For the sign posting.
Sign posting. So if the motion that's been put on the floor is to actually waive. Do we have a second?
I would like to ask the applicant a question, Commissioner, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please.
Why was the sign not posted? What was the reason for it not being posted?
So we turned everything in online, and we didn't actually physically go to the planning office. We just forgot to go pick up the sign. So very sorry about that. If it needs to be deferred, we understand, but we just thought we would come and talk to you guys first.
And my reason for asking that is to go back to what Sean spoke of. We don't want to set a precedent with us allowing people to come in and they didn't follow the guidelines. And so for that reason, I'm going to vote against it.
We need a second before we.
We don't even get a motion passed.
Yeah, we still have an open motion, no second at this point. Certainly the floor is still open for any questions or comments. Okay, again, we do have a motion on the floor, the motion being to go ahead and waive, which would allow us to go forward and hear the presentation of the project this evening. So that is the motion that's on the floor. So if you're for waiving the 30-day notice, signage notice, that will be a vote for. And if you're not supportive of waiving that 30-day signage requirement, that'd be a vote is negative or a no vote. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and second. Can we get a roll call vote?
Roll call, please. Barry?
No.
Benton?
No.
Brock?
No.
Brooks?
No.
Hamilton?
No.
Hart?
No.
Haynes?
No.
Ramon?
No.
Thomas?
No.
Vickers?
No.
Vogel?
No.
Motion fails unanimously.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, your next order would be to entertain a motion to defer this application to the April 8th agenda.
Okay. So I think Mr. Morris presented the motion. So do we have a motion that as Mr. Morris presented to defer until our next meeting?
Mr. Chairperson, I move that we defer the application until the April 8th meeting.
Okay. So got a motion and second. Roll call.
Barry?
Aye.
Benton?
Aye.
Brock?
Aye.
Brooks?
Aye.
Hamilton?
Aye.
Hart? Hart? Hart?
Commissioner Hart has left his seat, so
I see.
continue on.
Okay. Haynes?
Yes.
Ramon?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Vickers?
Aye.
Vogel?
Yes.
That's 10-0-1. The motion passes.
Okay, so this will be deferred to our next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Moore, I think we've got one more item.
Item number 16 will be presented by Mr. Hood of Public Works.
Great, thank you.
Several of the commissioners prior to this meeting asked that I do a brief presentation as an opening here to explain a little bit about the history of the land alteration ordinance and regulations associated with it, a little bit about how we got to where we are today. I'll open that just by reading a little bit from the municipal code under 29-167 findings. The city has experienced development activity causing the displacement of large amounts of earth and tree cover. Significant problems resulting from such development include flooding, soil erosion, sedimentation, unstable slopes, and impaired quality of life. These problems are a concern because of their negative effects on the safety and general welfare of the community. The purposes of some of that original regulatory framework was to prohibit the indiscriminate clearing of property, prevent excessive grading, clearing, filling, cutting, or similar activities, substantially reduce flooding, erosion, and sediment damage within the city, safeguard the safety and welfare of citizens, establish reasonable standards and procedures for development which prevent potential flooding, erosion, and sediment damage, prevent the pollution of streams, ponds, and other water courses by sediment, minimize the danger of flood loss and property loss due to unstable slopes, preserve natural vegetation, which enhances the quality of life for the community, to conceal hillside scars, and to prevent and to preserve the contours of the natural landscape and landforms. The land alteration ordinance grew out of a large public outcry. Many years ago, it actually coincided or even predated a little bit some of our current regulations under the NPDS stormwater program. While there was some requirements for erosion control, the city's framework for regulation and requirements was not as strict when this started happening in those years. The outcry was mainly a few sites around the city and some rather large sites. One I remember notable was on Cantrell Road near Sam Peck, where a contractor opened that entire site up where a large development is today to kind of a contractor's yard to dump rubble, fill, take fill in and out. It become kind of a contractor's dirt yard. It's right on the highway, right next to a neighborhood, the Sampec neighborhood, and it caused a lot of concern and a lot of outcry. And even before that, there was other large hillside cuts that were done. One along Rodney Parham at Treasure Hills Road where they did a cut, I believe, exceeding 50 feet and exposed a gigantic shale scar cut in the hillside that was visible for a long ways off and for a long time. There was also in those years a lot of speculative development by clearing land. The prevailing attitude by many developers being, I can't sell it if they can't see it, so I need to get all these trees off here. I need to grade it, I need to clear it. And they would go in and frankly take what was a pretty wooded lot and leave it a mess, eroding, not poor cover, and it would sit there for years and years. The ordinances we have now came out of a task force and led by not only members of staff, but we had outside consultants and we had a large group of developers and other concerned citizens. You might, some on the environmental side of the equation, that worked for a long time. I don't know how long. I was not on the original task force, but they worked a long time to put that framework of regulation into place. So that's a little bit real quick of where we're at today. This planning commission regularly sees these land alteration variances. They're variances that staff cannot grant on their own, but it is something that's discretionary to this planning commission to grant those certain requests. Those authorities were given to the commission on the larger requests that were not associated with an immediate development plan, where construction would be imminent on one or more of the lots. In those instances where a construction of a development buildings was imminent, staff has some authority, a great deal of authority to approve those types of development. But in instances where construction is not imminent, going to occur soon or very soon after the initial grading and land clearing activities, then that's a matter for the planning commission to decide what's appropriate. There has been instances in the past where these requests have been denied and been approved. The thinking of some commissioners in the past and even staff too is that there might be some wisdom in, instead of having a developer say on a large multi-lot commercial plat, to, if they're only ready to build on one lot, to perhaps have to haul dirt off somewhere else and then bring dirt back over the same streets in the future to the lot that's right next door. And so that's just kind of an example where there is some wisdom to approve some of these advanced grading plans at certain times. There are other times they've been denied as being too speculative or not appropriate for the site, any number of circumstances, all again under the discretion of the Planning Commission. I could take any questions about that little brief history if you'd like. Otherwise, my colleague here today, Alona Rosado, is here to present the item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hood.
The item number is 16. The file number is LA0091A. The item is 14524 Cantrell Road revised advanced grading variance. The location is north of 14524, 14710, 14800 Cantrell Road. The applicant is Holloway Engineering, Surveying, and Civil Design. The proposal request, the applicant is requesting a variance from the land alteration regulation to advance grade by clearing and filling an approximately 10.62 acre property located north of 14524, 14710, and 14800 Cantrell Road. The property is bordered by Ison Creek on the north and the east. The variance would allow staff to issue a grading permit for the advanced grading activities without imminent construction. Fill material is proposed to be hauled to the site from the approved advanced graded property at 15122 Cantrell Road. The filled area will slope to the natural grade at a slope not to exceed 2:1. The application is different from the previous Planning Commission denied application on January 14, 2021. The applicant now proposed to clear and fill the portion of the property located outside of the 100-year floodplain identified on the plan and proposed not to disturb the area located within the 100-year floodplain and the existing utility easements. The analysis. The applicant responded to the comments found in paragraph D. Applicant proposed to fill the partial tree-covered 10.62 acres. Access is proposed from the gravel vehicle tracking pad from Cantrell Road through the private access easement on the west side of Buffalo Wild Wings to access the signalized intersection. Fill is proposed to be placed on 1.5 acres of the 10.62 acre property outside of the regulatory 100-year floodplain. 50 feet undisturbed buffers are proposed to be maintained along the west and south sides of the field area, except for the entrance road. The floodplain located to the north will remain undisturbed. The site plan shows approximately 286 feet will remain undisturbed along the north from the field area to the northeast lot line on the north side of Ison Creek. The applicant proposes to stockpile up to 25,000 cubic yards of fill material on the property to an elevation of approximately 30 feet above the existing contours. The top of fill will be about 4 feet above the entrance road located on the west side of Buffalo Wild Wings. Recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the advanced grading variance request subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraph D of the agenda staff report. In addition to comments in paragraph D, the variance request is subject to compliance with the following conditions. A grading permit in accordance with section 29-186C and D will be required prior to any land clearing and grading activities at the site. No filling is permitted within the regulatory 100-year floodplain and within utility easements. Protective fencing will be installed along all undisturbed buffers and floodplain to prevent entry prior to commencement of clearing and filling activities. Erosion and sediment controls are required to be installed and maintained prior to commencement of the clearing and filling activities. All trees within the area to be filled will be removed prior to commencing filling activities. Stormwater drainage from the properties to the south should not be obstructed or restricted to cause ponding during rain events.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? Okay, you certainly can describe the project if you'd like, or certainly if you want to hear from the opposition, that's your option as well. So,
good evening. I'm John Reese. Thank you for coming tonight and tell you a little bit about this project. I've owned this property for about part of it, half of it, for about 10 years. About 10 years ago, in front of this board and the planning and the board of directors, and on the east end of my property, which was about 7 acres, I got it rezoned. I got the front part zoned for commercial activity. I got the back part of it zoned for office warehouse, 45,000 square feet, and had a building placed in there. And I didn't own the property to the west, which was Dr. Lowe's property. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I purchased that property from Dr. Lowe, and it was definitely needed a lot of fill. And but we haven't done anything with that property for the last 5 years. But I think we've determined it's time that we need to do something with it. We don't know exactly what yet, but we know that one thing we're going to need to do. We're going to need to add dirt. Add fill dirt, add fill dirt in that area, because it is basically just a pit. It's just very, very low. It's going to need a lot of dirt to go in there. We have bought a property about a half a mile from this property that we're being developed, and we'll be coming back to the board regarding that development. And we have a hill that we're digging into, and we're going to have approximately 25,000 yards that we can take out of there. Obviously, we want to do that to try to minimize our cost. And so we're taking dirt from, we call it the Cantrell West project, which is about a half a mile away, and depositing it into this property, because no matter what we would put in it or put on it, we're going to need to have a level playing field. So we would request you to approve this. And I'll just say this, I understand what the first speaker was talking about. I mean, there's been some clear cutting before in the past, and those things have led to drastic measures by the city regarding whether they can develop property. But in the last few years, Deltic Timber, which developed and clear cut Rawling Road, about 10 or 15 acres over there. Probably most people know where that is. And also the one at now Rawling and Chanel Parkway, which has just been, I'm not exactly sure what the development, if any, is planned there, but that's been approved also. So we're just following the line of other developers. I'm only asking for about 15% of the whole site to be filled. The last time I was in here, we were asking for the entire property, the 10 acres. We've gone down now to less than 2 acres. That's the part that's got the really bad elevation, topo, and so therefore we need that, and I'm pleading and asking for your blessing on that so that we can just move dirt from one side to the other. And you know, we've been we're going to try to come back to the board on something on the overall project in the next 60 to 90 days. So this is not something we're just going to let sit there for the next 10 years. We plan on having something, trying to get something back so we can actually develop this property in the next 12 months. And we've got a few ideas, but we don't know exactly what we haven't decided on yet. But right now, we do know that we need to have the dirt, and we're just sitting over there right now on our Cantrell West property, and we can't do anything with that until we get this done. So, this property is also out of sight. Nobody's going to be able to really go in there and look at it because it's behind a shopping center, we call it Pinnacle Creek Shopping Center, and also behind, well, that's where it's really the major filling will take place. And it's about 300 feet off of Highway 10, so it's not right in your face at all. Yes, do you want to say something? Be happy to take questions and ask for your approval on this. We think we've gone as, you know, we've gotten to this point by going back to Mr. Collins and asking him, we wanted to come back because it was really needed by us, and he's told us to make sure this is something, he said, that shouldn't be a problem. He thinks he gave us his approval. The city has approved it, and he said we're not going to be putting water in anybody. So we're not even filling in the floodway or the flood plain, either one of them, and there's no harm to other neighbors or other areas to have water placed on them, which we've heard those comments, but they're not true. And they have no documentation to show that they are true. So we would appreciate your vote. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Okay. Commissioners, any immediate questions? We've got several folks in opposition. Mr. Reese, you certainly could defer the remainder of your time to come back after the opposing folks speak. Okay. All right. Let's see. The first green card that I have in the room in opposition is Mr. Jeff Hankins. Mr. Hankins, if you want to approach the podium, please. State your name.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for your time. My name is Jeff Hankins. My home is at 21 Waterside Drive, which shares a property line with the R2 residential zone property that would be cleared and filled under this advanced grading variance. We are extremely grateful for the Commission's previous recognition of our serious concerns about proposed actions involving this property. We remain adamantly opposed to this proposal and are dismayed that we're having to fight for our property rights and enforcement of the city zoning plan for a second time in less than 2 months. My neighbors and I bought residential property on good faith of the city's master plan, which says that I back up to single-family residential property, not apartments, not commercial development, not some unknown development that can't be articulated.
Excuse me, Mr. Hankins, if I may, can I address the commission for a minute? This application is for land alteration for grading only. The zoning application that you did here previously, totally separate item, and any zoning cases to be heard is a separate item. If we could remain on the application at hand, the other item that Mr. Hankins is talking about has not been presented to the commission yet for consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Collins. Yeah, Mr. Hankins, if you could, as Mr. Collins just suggested, what we're hearing tonight is strictly on the advanced grading request and nothing on a specific development.
Okay. So the intention of the developer with this property that's going to be cleared and filled is not clear to us. Okay. The existing natural buffer on the west border of the property is not dense with trees, and clearing would severely damage and dilute the natural space. The proposed 50-foot buffer would result in the loss of most existing trees, so our homes would suddenly overlook a deforested swath of empty land right behind us. While this is a small property, it's an impactful property. It is surrounded by homes. So to say that it's not going to be seen from Highway 10 or from Cantrell Road, it will be seen by myself and all of our neighbors surrounding that area. Interestingly, the developer has actually already begun clearing and fill efforts at this site without the approval of this commission. The planning staff indicated to me that fewer than 7 trees were impacted and that this is allowed. I have a Google satellite image.
Mr. Hankins, if I may on that point too, for a minute. Chair, commissioners, just for notice, the applicant did place fill on that site. It is, we investigated, we received the complaints, we did go investigate it Monday. They are not in violation. There is exceptions underneath the land alteration regulations to do that. I want to make this point. They did not remove more than 7 trees. I think we estimated there were 4. And then they are, and this yearly is what we do per annum. And then they are allowed to place up to 1,000, anything more than 1,000 is cubic yards is when a grading permit is required. So these are, again, separate items. I do understand people have sent emails and stuff in about the placement of the soil, but it is a separate item from the land alteration. If it was in violation, we went and found it, it would have come before this commission on a violation if they did not remediate from what the regulations say, or an enforcement action to the commission.
With all due respect, that what is proposed to be done with this land is going to impact neighbors around this property. So even if this is not a zoning issue, it is still an action that is a variance from what's supposed to be done with that property that impacts all of us. And that's why it's important to us, and that's why we have so many through social media and online and so forth that are opposed to this, because we see what's coming down the road. And again, there's not even a plan for this property by Mr. Reese's own admission. There is no plan for this property. I just want to make sure that's clear. I also want to note the planning staff stated for the second time these proposals that there was no opposition. And I just want to make sure I'm clear for the record that anything short of a quality R2 residential development is opposed by our neighborhood and myself. You can knock on any of our doors, give us a call, take a look at social media, and we'll be happy to explain it very directly. Again, we hope that you will protect the integrity of the master zoning plan and the variances that very clearly seem to be a precursor to a future request of this commission to make changes to this property, and that it's almost impossible to say that the work that's going to be done under this variance is leading to a residential development. And it's R2 property, and we want to protect our neighborhood. Thank you for your consideration. I'd like to know, can I yield the rest of my time to Keith Wingfield, who's here in attendance? Am I allowed to do that?
Well, we've got several other cards listed. Let me get through those cards and then we'll look at our time. We're right about 10 minutes already.
Okay. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Hankins. Thank you. Okay. Next green card I have is Mr. Ennis Jones. Mr. Jones. And I'll remind you, I think we're at about 9 minutes at this point.
Sorry, with the commission, I'll yield my time to Keith.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got several names on the web. I'm just going to read through them quickly. Let's see. First name I have is Derek Burns. Derek Burns.
Yeah, we're here. We'll yield our time to the gentleman, everyone else.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I've got Jeff Hankins, but I believe Mr. Hankins, you've already spoke. Allison Courtney. Allison Courtney.
Yes, I'm here and I'll yield my time to Keith Wingfield.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Ben Davis. Ben Davis.
Not present.
Okay, Gerald and Christine Randolph.
Not present.
Joseph Eik. E-I-C-K. Eek. Joseph Eek. Okay, Devonda Bird.
He's in the room.
This is Joe. I'm here, but I'm opposed. I'm a resident and homeowner at Icing Creek, and I yield my time to Keith.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ike. Appreciate it. Devonda Bird. Devonda Bird.
Not present.
Brittany Naper. Brittany Naper.
Hi, I'm here and I would like to yield my time to Keith as well.
Okay, thank you. Richard Stoker. Richard Stoker. Okay, and Lee Littleton.
He's in the room.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Richard Stoker. I yield my time to Keith Wingfield.
Okay, and did we hear from Lee Littleton?
Not in the room.
Not in the room. Okay, okay, Mr. Wingfield, you have the podium, and can you remind us the amount of time that we have left?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How much time do I have?
8 minutes.
Pardon me?
8 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'll
thank you.
try to be brief. My name is Keith Wingfield. I'm the developer of the subdivision village at Icing Creek, which is immediately adjacent to the subject property, asking for the approval of the land alteration. Mr. Hood, I served on that task force with Dottie Funk about land alteration, and I was for proper land alteration, but I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the history of land alteration at Mr. Reese's site. Now, I respect him greatly. Don't get me wrong. I really respected him when he was catching those footballs. But I want to tell you right now that there are some things on the existing site that's adjacent to this residential tract of property that really give me concern. At some point in time, as much as 10 years ago, that site began to be filled as well. And Walter, if you could put some of those floodplain maps up for me. Yes. If you'll zoom in on that particular one, there are piles of concrete and rubble that have been placed there years ago. I think Mr. Floriani probably would verify that for me. They're large, they're unsightly, they have trees growing up through them. there is part of that fill that was placed in the floodway. And so I'm asking you if that's going to be the norm for this particular land alteration, and I'm asking you to deny it. Because the history of the adjacent site shows that it's been filled into the floodway without a permit, without a letter of map revision. There are parking lot spaces over part of that floodway, and it shows on your own map, which is on your Pages website. So it's difficult for me to speak this because I'm a developer too, and I am for development in Little Rock, but it's got to be good development for the residents of the city and especially for those in neighborhoods with close proximity to this neighborhood. Sure, developers have property rights, but they've got to be as allowed by our own ordinances. And the land alteration ordinance before you doesn't indicate where the general entrance might be of a future plan. But it's clear that the only suitable entrance looks to be where the property has already, as someone said, started being filled. And I've been instructed by Mr. Collins, and he's probably correct. He's a lot smarter than I am, but that's already ongoing. But what I'm telling you there is that is the intersection of a bicycle pedestrian trail. We received no notice that any of these filling activities were going to occur. We have people and bicyclists using this trail from the river trail, which I built this trail out of my pocket, and I may have to close it down because it looks to me to be a very, very dangerous situation. And I'll guarantee you, you'll hear from the cyclist over that. The biggest problem with any development in this area is the traffic. People don't really get upset about too much other than the traffic. And I want to go back to what Commissioner Berry said in the last meeting. How can you possibly approve anything here until you know what the plan is? I mean, he was dead on. Until you know what the plan is, I have supported plans of Mr. Reese in the past at this very site. He knows it. I'm telling you, it's got to be something compatible with the neighborhood. I live in the neighborhood, but I'm not near where Mr. Hankins is, but I would be fearful if I'm him having what originally has been proposed there, which was 248 apartments. So we just think that this has got to be part and parcel of a bigger plan. And with that, I'm going to yield the rest of my time to my friend Enos Jones, who gave me his time, and I think we have a little bit of time left. Enos, do you want to speak? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do y'all have any questions of me?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
You developed the Isom Creek neighborhood back to the west of this property, correct?
That's correct.
And there is a small piece that Mr. Reese spoke of that he bought from a Dr. Lowe, I believe. Were you also trying to acquire that property, or did you take me through the history of why you didn't get that piece of property too?
Okay. The contract that I had on that property expired, and it was Dr. Betty Lowe, and her heirs wanted to move quickly with the sale of it. And I did not want to do the sale until I had my conditional letter of map revision for the floodway and the floodplain, and we didn't have all that done yet. So until I knew that what I was proposing was not going to flood the area, then I held up on that particular parcel because of that. So no other reason.
Thank you.
Answered it?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Jones, I believe we have about 2 minutes.
Good afternoon once again. Mr. Reese stated earlier that there's no proof of any erosion and things of that nature. I think probably about 2 years ago when we were first here for the Hamilton Apartments, I think we had a slideshow of all the damage that was done to our property, the adjacent property that runs along beside Isom Creek, that for some reason he still has yet to acknowledge. I've had to replace fences multiple times and put in a retaining wall just to protect property over there. Just recently at March, the rain that came through, I guess one of those trees that was cut down over there floated across the properties at the back of my gate right now. And I actually have a picture of it. If the commission would like to see it.
Can you tell us where your property is located, sir?
5522 Pinnacle Valley Road. I share property lines with that piece of property.
To the north.
So everything that he does, it directly impacts me. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, let's see, commissioners, any questions, any comments? I think okay, and applicant, would you like to respond? I'm sorry, would you like to respond to those comments? I believe there's.
Thank you. Some of the comments made, I don't know, that last comment about the tree that's in his yard, I don't understand that, because we are close to our property that's on the south end of our property and also to the far east end. So that tree must have floated about 300 feet if it's in his yard, because it is totally across the creek also. So I don't know where that tree came from, but I don't think it's ours. We only cut down, like Mr. Collins said, 4. We took them away. We did not leave them there. The dumping that's been occurred in that property or on that property in the last several years, we placed posted signs saying no dumping, but the people still dump. We cannot police that property all the time. They have put things in there that we don't want in there. We're going to have to haul them away. For example, the concrete and other stuff that they brought in there, it's not because we put them in there, it's because it was put in there by someone else that didn't tell us, because it's going to just cost us money to get them out, get it out of there. But I appreciate you, Mr. Collins, for trying to keep the opposition on track. We don't know. Right now, all we're talking about is a grading plant. We've got dirt. We just want to fill a hole, and it doesn't. And we're not filling. We've cut it down from 10 acres to less than 2 acres or something like that. So we feel like this is a very reasonable request. We're not going to put any water on anybody. We're not going to. We've got buffers on the sides that the city has told us that we have to keep. We're going to do that. It seems like everybody else seems to be able to do these things. And when I come up here, I have a hard time because people don't want to have that property developed. I've had it for a long time. I'm just trying to fill a hole. I need your help. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody in the neighborhood, but it's going to be developed for something. Mr. Hankins gets up here and says he just wants a rabbit farm or a squirrel so he can watch. I mean, it's not going to be that way. I've heard it for the last 20 years, and I know you'd like to have that, but I paid for that property. There is something in the Constitution that talks about free use of your land, and that's all I'm requesting, that I can fill a hole so I can use it in the future, and hopefully it's going to be soon. I'm not going to wait. I don't want to wait another 10 years. I want to wait 6 to 12 months or something. And we want to have something back so that we can develop it and start generating an income and taxes for the city of Little Rock. And that's what our plan is. I would certainly appreciate your help tonight in getting this done so we can take our dirt from one property to the next and and make both properties a lot better. Thank you very much. Any questions? I'm sorry.
Any questions of Mr. Reese? Okay,
This is my engineer. He just wants to say a word today.
okay.
I just want to say that I'm Jess Griffin Holloway. When we came last time, a lot of the complaints were about flooding. And we took care of that complaint. I said, and Jamie actually made the idea that don't fill anything in the floodplain. So we're asking not to fill anything in the floodplain to try to make the neighbors happy. And then the other big complaint that they were talking about was the utilities and the raw water lines that go through there. We're going to be nowhere near any utility easement or anywhere near those raw water lines. That was another big complaint. And so I just took all the complaints that all the neighbors had last time and I tried to fix them. And now there's a whole new set of complaints. And so we're just trying to make them happy, do something that makes everybody happy and that's fair. And that we can say, okay, they're not going to be flooded. The other thing is they keep bringing out, there's no site plan. Why have a land alteration variance if you have to see the site plan? If you keep failing because we don't have a site plan, why have the land alteration variance? And, you know, the other thing is about the buffers. They're complaining about the buffers. The developer, Mr. Wingfield, made an agreement with Mr. Reese to have a 41-foot buffer on Mr. Reese's property when he developed the subdivision. They also have probably similar amount of buffer to the commercial shopping centers that all these neighbors back up to. So we make a 50-foot buffer of where we're just trying to fill some dirt and we don't have any idea what it is, but 50 foot should be plenty of buffer. When he made an agreement already for 41 and that seemed to satisfy him at that point. So I think we're being very fair with the buffer. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your comments, absolutely. Commissioners, any questions, any comments on this particular item?
Oh, yeah. That's like name got dragged in by Mr. Wingfield. Thank you for that. This application has gone from 10 to 2.5 acres, right, for a grading permit. You don't have to come up for that. That's okay. My questions are staff, one of which is an advanced grading permit is good for how long? Is there an expiration date on it? I could. Our historian.
Yes, I do enjoy a good history story. Typically, these are all limited to 1 year of activity, and I believe that's in the staff write-up.
Okay, so after 1 year, this grading permit expires if he doesn't do any advanced grading. Is that?
That's
okay.
correct. It's good for 1 year. And is that correct, Vince? It's good for 1 year. And by the end of that year, the entire site has to be all stabilized from erosion. More permanent erosion controls put in place, typically consisting of seeding or riprap, whatever additions might be needed to stabilize the site.
Thanks. There was mention of a buffer 50 feet abutting the residential neighborhood. Is that correct? Is that part of the grading permit? That'll be undisturbed? Hear my question?
I'm afraid I didn't, sir.
That's
Would you
okay.
repeat,
Is there a 50-foot undisturbed buffer between this side and the residential development residents?
That's my understanding. Yes, there is. It is true that it's considerably reduced from what it was before.
Is there
a reduced area that's proposed to receive fill and be cleared?
Right, but the buffers would have always been 50 feet. Is that correct?
The buffers, they have always been 50 feet on the west and also on the south also. The area they're going to fill has gotten much smaller. They do not plan to fill within the floodplain. And they will do more of a stockpile of dirt.
Okay.
To address your first question, from the time that the Planning Commission approves a variance, the applicant's got 2 years to take action. At the time that the applicant takes action, a grading permit is issued. The applicant has 1 year from that date to begin the job and to finish it. Beyond that time, they have to come back to this commission.
Okay. And as part of that, it seems like when I was reading the ordinance, if the land is excavated and graded, but it's never, there's no imminent construction, there is no construction or development, does there have to be a restoration to that property?
They do not by seeking the variance from you. They do, and they will be required to establish vegetation. They will be required to make sure that the property drains, to make sure that it does not restrict drainage. But with the issuance of the variance, they are not required to restore the site following the flood.
And I guess my last question, well, I have 2 more questions, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Someone mentioned it was going to interfere with the designated bicycle trail. Is that correct, staff? Is there a city master plan for trails? Is this affected by the work that's being proposed?
The way that I understand the master bike plan is that the master bike plan does not identify this as the location of the master bike plan. Mr. Wingfield has been very generous to allow bicyclists to go down some shared access easement through the Isom Creek subdivision onto public streets and then across the new bridge to Pinnacle.
Okay. And then my last question is, obviously, regardless of what the proposed plan development is, this site would be graded. Does excavation and grading vary with the type of development it is to become, or is it pretty much the same type of excavation and
Well,
drainage?
Chairman Berry, or Commissioner Berry, it really, yeah, it changes and varies based on the use of any development on how the site lays out. Whether you can grade a potential site and have to put walls up, still have to meet the buffer requirements, so they have to come in and ask for variance of those for adjacent zoning. Also, they would have to adhere to our drainage manual, which would require detention and placement without detention. As far as height and the amount of fill, any development that would come in would have to be above that 1 foot of freeboard of the base flood elevation and placement. So that will set a criteria. There's also existing utilities that are on the site, as mentioned previously. There's CAW utilities and also sanitary sewer utilities that, based upon the amount of fill to be placed, depends on what location, whether they can stay in their same location or whether they need to be adjusted or moved. And that could also affect some of the grading operation. So the general grading operation of them all is it would have to tie into some existing tie on the south to get to Cantrell, and it would have to be above the base flood elevation as set by our floodplain ordinance in that field, because you do not want to get the building inside that floodplain. And that would have to be confirmed by how much they fill in there and go through the process through the city and or FEMA as needed for any amendments to the maps.
Thanks. So if they were approved for the advanced grading permit. At the time that they come into staff for that permit, they do have to provide you, Public Works, their drainage and excavation plan, more details at that
Yes,
point.
the release of this is a variance, and they would still have to apply for that grading permit, and will be reviewed by staff for approval. And again, and that would be per our guidelines, adopted codes, manuals, and any variance would have to come back before the commission again, for the permit from what is allowed per the code. So we haven't seen that. Right now, what you have seen is more schematic or preliminary in nature on that. More final plans would have to be produced.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Todd Hart. Could I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
It won't be the multi-part question that Mr. Berry had. That was a multi-part question.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Jamie, I know this is not about zoning. So I totally get that. I'm going to support this because I think it makes sense to take dirt from one location on Highway 10 to another just for a 2-acre site. But what I heard from the opposition, I think specifically from Mr. Hankins, I kept hearing R2, R2. This property has to be R2. And so when I look on our zoning map, our land use is transition and our zoning is PCD. So this land does not have to be R2, and in fact, likely will not be R2. And I'm wondering, I just want to set the record straight on that. It's probably imminent. We're going to see some type of site plan within the next 12 months. But what I wonder what the impression, what would have given the resident in the neighborhood to the west has to be R2, because I'm seeing that it does not.
Well, as I stated previously, I
know it's not about
zoning. On Mr. Hankins' speech is, we do not need to discuss the zoning matters for the site because it's not being proposed. I can talk in generalities in regards to the land use plan and what any area is that is shown for like this one is they do have a transitional zone, and that is the land use plan. In a typical transitional zone, you want specific uses transition from a higher density use, which could be that commercial, to more of a regular use, which is the R2 zone. Typically, what we see in that type of transition would be office and some other types of multifamily as use on there. And for these, there are 2 separate tracts of land that are to be considered. One is running at about, I believe is 4.9 acres. And the other is the remnants. The 4.9 acres, the one that's adjacent to the existing residential. So if you look at just uses in the area, there is and does need to be some type of transition of anything that is to be proposed in the future from the commercial that is on the south that is servicing off of Cantrell to any type of lower, less density use, like a residential zone to the north. That's what we can speak more in generalities. I do not want to get and do not believe that in advice from our city attorney's office that we need to talk specifics of the zoning of this property.
I understand that. Are both of those tracts, though, currently zoned PCD?
Both of those tracts, PCD?
Right.
No.
They're not. Okay. Okay. The one to the west, is that residential?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioner questions or comments?
Yes, hi, this is Commissioner Thomas. Just for clarification, just reflecting on what has already been said. So there has already been grading of this 2 acres. This was not a violation. Some grading has already.
Yes, that is correct. The staff visited the site Monday and did not find any violations to our land alteration or our grading codes. Other than we did issue the stop work order and mandated some erosion control measures to be put in place for what has been placed on site.
Okay, so, okay. I just want to be clear that so much has been discussed. I didn't know he was proposing to move forward with some grading, just making sure what's in the guidelines. But some grading has already moved forward before this application was reviewed.
Yeah, and like I also mentioned when they initially made their presentation, these are right now considered two separate items. The land alteration is before you.
Yes, yeah, I just want to get some clarification on that. I think I got a little confused, but thank you for clearing that up.
Okay. Any additional comments, questions? All right, hearing none, we'll take a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the advanced grading variance set forth in item 16, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions and as outlined in paragraph D of the agenda staff report.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. How about a roll call?
Barry?
Aye.
Benton?
Aye.
Brock?
No.
Brooks?
Aye.
Hamilton?
Aye.
Hart?
Aye.
Heinz?
Yes.
Ramon?
Yes.
Thomas?
No.
Vickers?
Aye.
Vogel?
Yes.
The vote is 9 in affirmative, 2 in opposition. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that completes all of the items that we have for this evening. Do we have any citizens' comments, by chance?
Before we leave, I do need to speak about a couple of things, Chair, if I may.
Absolutely, yes, Mr. Collins.
If seems like several months back since we didn't get to meet in February. But if you remember, we sent out Mr. Malone presented some items on the land use plan, amendments that we're looking at for the corridors. I have not heard anything back from any of the commissioners. I would like to request that we, in sticking with what we talked about last year and the adoption of the codes, that we was going to involve the commission in those. And so I am going to still seek y'all's participation. Right now it's sitting, I haven't heard from anybody. So if I may.
Can you resend those out? Can you resend those?
I can resend those out. We really need to look at setting up a committee to discuss those matters. The entire commission doesn't necessarily need to be there. So that is up to the chair to do those and set those and seek who may do that and the number. But I would encourage y'all to do so because we do need to proceed with some of those corridors this year, if at all possible. They're not pressing, so it's something I'm not saying you have to do now, but we do want the commission involved in the land use plan, as I believe that is their duty to do so.
Excellent.
And I also have I guess, Mr. Malone, you have an announcement. We have a couple, we have several new hires. One of them is with us tonight. And so Mr. Malone will make the announcement.
For the commissioners that are present, because there's not a camera pointing over here, but the gentleman standing behind me over here is James McHenry. He is joining us as a planner for the city of Little Rock. He was hired in January, so he's a little over a month into working for the city of Little Rock. He comes from most immediately from Tulsa to us, but he's also worked in Washington State as a planner also before coming.
Okay, welcome, Mr. McHenry. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, just one more comment since you're talking about some proposed code changes.
Yeah.
I think Commissioner Vogel will be interested in this. Since later, we've been in COVID lockdown, but later this year, as we all step up with our vaccinations and go to some kind of post-COVID, I think short-term rentals is going to come back up again. I know that was postponed because of COVID. Y'all were reviewing some proposed changes. I think I hope we get proactive and bring those back up.
Well, I have some news for you. Since, you know, the last time you emailed it, I gave the status at the time. And we continue to work at it. I had met with city administration, the mayor's office, and sat down and talked general timeframe of what we'd like to do. And when I say what we would like to do, this is just a general proposal. We need to present this to the commission. Again, as I said, this is a code change that affects the planning of the city. That is the job of the planning commission. So what we talked about and when we get this presented, they're looking through drafts right now, and we're going to also get it to city attorney's office to look at just the legality of the drafts before we present anything. But probably at next meeting, we will discuss, I don't think there has to be a formal action, but in general, what staff was thinking is we would like to have 2 public meetings just to the general public out there in the areas that would be most affected by the adoption of this ordinance. That would be sometime in the April-May timeframe. That would allow us to have a June-July timeframe general meeting of the Planning Commission. I'm guessing there might need to be 2 of those. That would put us hopefully on track with some type of late July, August timeframe for the commission. Once they hear all the public meetings, all the deal, certify and recommend for adoption a potential ordinance to the board. And so when we do go out for those public meetings, I will be reaching out to the chair to have the planning commission, members of the planning commission at that meeting, because I do believe, like I said, it is the role and duty of this commission to plan the city and be out there and do that. So staff will be there, 100% supportive, but I do want some faces of the commission there to see what that process is and to be engaged.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. Hearing no more items, I move that we adjourn this meeting. Is there a second?
Hey, you got one.
I assume you got something. We are adjourned.